My name is Serafina, though most people just call me Sarah. For most of my life, I believed in neat stories, the kind where the bride walks down the aisle, the music swells, and everyone claps because love has conquered everything. I believed in happy endings because my best friend Kasia told me to. She was the one who always said, "Don't overthink it, Sarah. Just trust the people you love." So I trusted her. I trusted Adrian. And on the night before my wedding, they turned that trust into a weapon. The rehearsal dinner had been beautiful. Almost cruelly beautiful. We rented out the top floor of a historic hotel downtown. Chandeliers glowed with golden light, music from a live pianist slipped across the air like silk, and waiters in black carried trays of champagne that never seemed to empty. My parents laughed at every toast. Adrian's colleagues joked about his promotion to husband. And Kasia sat right beside me, radiant in a dress that looked suspiciously close to ivory. I laughed when I saw it earlier. "Really, Cass? White? At my rehearsal?" She rolled her eyes, all innocence. "Oh, come on. It's cream. Not white. And besides, no one could mistake me for the bride tomorrow." She smiled as if the very idea was ridiculous. But all night, I noticed the little things. How she leaned in to whisper something in Adrian's ear. How he laughed, even when her joke couldn't have been that funny. How her hand brushed his sleeve and lingered just a second too long. Each moment small enough to dismiss, but together they painted a picture I didn't want to see. I told myself I was imagining it. Pre-wedding stress. Too many details to juggle. That's what Kasia would have said if I voiced my thoughts. She'd tilt her head, smile, and remind me that jealousy ruins brides faster than anything else. When the dinner ended, I stayed behind to thank the staff. I wanted everything tomorrow to run perfectly. I wanted the servers to know how grateful I was. I wanted to be the bride everyone remembered as gracious, calm, composed. But when I came back into the hall, my world tilted. Adrian and Kasia stood in the corner. Their bodies angled too close. Her hand rested on his chest as if it belonged there. He leaned down, listening, smiling with a softness I thought was mine alone. Then, quick as a match flare, his lips brushed hers. A kiss. Small. Almost deniable. But not to me. The chandeliers blurred above me. I heard laughter across the hall, but it sounded like it was underwater. I gripped the doorframe because my legs felt hollow, like the bones had been scooped out. They didn't see me. Or maybe they didn't care. My breath caught sharp in my throat. I wanted to storm forward, to scream, to slap the champagne glasses out of their smug hands. I wanted to tear the whole fairy tale veil off tomorrow before it even had the chance to cover me. But betrayal doesn't always feel like fire. It freezes. It locks you in place while the scene burns itself into your memory. I turned and walked out into the night air before they could notice. Outside, Chicago pulsed with its usual Friday rhythm. Yellow cabs honked, neon signs blinked above crowded bars, and music thudded from rooftops. Strangers laughed on sidewalks, carrying their own dramas that had nothing to do with mine. I stood on the steps of the hotel, the cool air hitting my skin, and felt like I was split in two. Tomorrow, Kasia was supposed to walk behind me, holding my bouquet, fixing my veil, smiling as my best friend. Tomorrow, Adrian was supposed to vow eternity, lips pressed to mine in front of everyone we loved. But tonight, I had seen the truth. I could have ended it right then. Called off the wedding. Thrown the ring back at him and told Kasia she had destroyed something sacred. That would have been the dramatic, simple ending. But as I stood there, clutching the railing until my knuckles turned white, something inside me shifted. Kasia thought she had stolen my future. Adrian thought he had gotten away with a harmless indulgence. They both thought I would stay quiet, because I always had. Because I was the soft one, the one who smoothed conflicts instead of making them. They forgot that silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is planning. If they wanted to play games, I could play better. If Kasia thought she could steal my groom, she had forgotten something important. Her dream venue was mine first. And so was the spotlight. That night, on the eve of what was supposed to be my wedding, I decided something else would happen instead. Something none of them would ever forget. I did not sleep that night. I lay in the bridal suite with the city lights flickering against the curtains, the diamond on my finger glinting like it was mocking me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image: Adrian leaning down, Kassia's smile curving like a blade, their lips brushing in the corner of the rehearsal hall. I kept asking myself the same questions on a loop. Was it the first time? Was it an accident? Was it the only kiss, or had there been dozens more, hidden in shadows when I wasn't looking? My stomach churned until I pressed a hand against it, afraid I would be sick. At 3 in the morning, I sat up, turned on the bedside lamp, and reached for my phone. There were messages, congratulations from family flying in, reminders from the wedding planner, a sweet text from Adrian that read, "Can't wait for tomorrow, kiddo. It's our forever. Kiddo." He always called me that when he wanted to disarm me, make me small. Suddenly it sounded rotten, patronizing, like a leash disguised as affection. And then there was Kassia's message, time-stamped 10 minutes after his. "Love you, bride. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. Don't stress. I'll be right by your side. Right by my side." Like a knife slipped neatly between my ribs. I stared at the screen until my hand shook, then set it down. My reflection stared back at me in the black glass, pale, sleepless, eyes too wide. A woman at the edge of collapse, or the edge of something else. I whispered to myself, no. Not collapse. Not this time. For years, Kassia had been the star in every room. The prettier one, the louder one, the one who always stole the last word. She teased me for being meticulous, for writing lists, for planning everything down to the minute. She called me a control freak, always with a laugh, always with the kind of tone that made other people laugh too. But here's the thing Kassia never understood: control is not a flaw. It is a weapon. And I had spent my whole life sharpening it. By dawn, a plan had begun to form. Not a scream, not a runaway bride headline in tomorrow's paper. Something colder. Cleaner. Something that would sting longer than a public meltdown. I got up, showered, and dressed not in silk robes or bridal whites, but in black jeans and a crisp shirt. A soldier's armor. I tied my hair back. My reflection looked different now, tighter, sharper, a woman rehearsing not vows but war. At 7, I walked into the hotel lobby and ordered coffee strong enough to burn. The barista looked at me like I was crazy. No makeup, dark circles under my eyes, no glow of a bride on her wedding day. I didn't care. My glow would come later, when I chose it. I took my cup to a quiet corner, pulled out my notebook, the same one Kassia had once teased me about for being too intense, and started writing. Not feelings. Not doubts. Steps. Step 1. Cancel nothing. Let them think the wedding is still mine. Let them sweat in their tuxedos and gowns. Step 2. Call Mira. My cousin, my closest ally, the one Kassia never liked because she couldn't manipulate her. Mira was a lawyer with a memory like a knife. If I needed someone to help me thread this needle legally and strategically, it was her. Step 3. The venue. Kassia's dream had always been the Glass House Ballroom, a legendary venue booked 2 years in advance, all glass ceilings and chandeliers that dripped like diamonds. She used to show me photos when we were teenagers, sighing, "One day, this will be my fairy tale." She didn't know I had quietly put down a deposit on it months ago, before Adrian even proposed, because I loved it too. It was meant to be my venue, my dream. When the hotel offered us a discount package, Kassia encouraged me to switch, insisting it was more practical. I let her win that argument. But not anymore. Step 4. The spotlight. Kassia craved it. She bathed in it. She stole it from me without even trying. Tomorrow, I would take it back, not by demanding it, but by holding it steady while she exposed herself. I snapped the notebook shut. The plan wasn't finished, but the bones were there. Enough to stand on. At 8, I dialed Mira. She answered groggily. "Sarah? Please tell me you didn't get cold feet the morning of your wedding." "Not cold feet," I said. My voice was flat, deliberate. "Something worse. I need you here." She sat up, I could hear the sheets rustle. "What happened?" I hesitated, then forced the words out. "Kassia and Adrian. Last night. I saw them." Silence. Then a sharp inhale. "Those snakes." "Yeah. You want to cancel? No, I said. I want to play it differently. I want to take everything she's ever wanted and use it against her. I want her to choke on the spotlight she stole from me. Mira was quiet for a beat, then her voice sharpened. Tell me the plan. I told her everything, my voice low, precise, like I was outlining a court case. Mira didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she whistled. Cold. Brutal. Legal. I love it. You'll help. Of course I will. Family before fakes. She paused. But Sarah, this isn't just about revenge. What do you want at the end of it? Do you want him back? Do you want her ruined? I sipped the bitter coffee, staring out at the street where morning commuters hurried past with briefcases and paper cups. I want the truth in the open. I want her to lose what she wanted most. And I want to walk away stronger than they ever thought I could be. Myra's voice softened. Then let's make sure you get exactly that. I hung up, my pulse steadier than it had been all night. The sun was climbing over the skyline now, streaking the glass towers with gold. I looked up at them and thought, fine. If Kasia wanted to steal my groom, I would steal her dream. And when the spotlight hit, everyone would see exactly who she really was. By 9, the city was awake. So was I, though not in the way a bride is meant to be on her wedding morning. I was not floating in satin or laughing with bridesmaids. I was on my phone, calling in every favor I had. The Glass House Ballroom had been booked for 2 years straight, but I knew something Kasia didn't. My deposit was still there. When I switched to the hotel to please her, the coordinator had begged me not to cancel outright. We can roll your payment to a later date, she'd said. Keep your spot open. You never know. She was right. I dialed her number. My hands did not shake. This is Sarah, I said. I need to activate my Glass House contract. Today. There was a pause, then a quick intake of breath. For today? Sarah, that's... I know, I cut in. But I already paid the deposit. I want it now. And I'm willing to pay double to make sure nothing stops it. Money talks. By the time the call ended, the impossible was suddenly possible. The Glass House would open its glass doors tonight, not for Kasia, not for Adrian, but for me. When I set my phone down, a laugh slipped out, sharp, brittle. Kasia had dreamed about this place since we were 15. She'd sent me magazine cutouts, Pinterest boards, late-night texts with photos captioned, "My future fairy tale." She had talked about walking beneath those chandeliers as if it were destiny. And now, she wouldn't even be a guest there. She would watch me take it, knowing it had been hers once. Step 1, complete. Mira arrived at the hotel around 10, hair tied back, glasses on, already holding her laptop. She looked more like she was ready to cross-examine a witness than attend a wedding. Tell me everything's set, she said. I slid my phone across the table to show her the confirmation email. Her eyes widened. You actually did it. The Glass House. I nodded. Tonight, that's where everyone will go. Not here. She smirked. Kasia will choke. That's the point, I said. We spent the next hour building the scaffolding of the plan. Mira handled the legalities, transferring contracts, ensuring the vendors would be rerouted. I handled the story. Guests would receive last-minute updates. Invitations would shift to the Glass House. No one would know until they were already on their way. By the time Kasia and Adrian realized what was happening, it would be too late. Around noon, I walked into the hotel ballroom, the place Kasia had convinced me to settle for. It looked beautiful, flowers climbing the arches, chairs draped in white, tables glittering with glassware. But all I could see was Kasia's smugness. She had wanted me here because it was smaller than the Glass House, safer, easier to control. I traced a finger along one of the centerpieces and whispered to myself, not anymore. That was when she appeared. Kasia, glowing in pastel silk, clipboard in hand, pretending to be helpful. She beamed when she saw me. Bride of the hour, she chirped. Don't worry, I checked with the florist. Everything's perfect. I studied her. The girl who had kissed my fiancé less than 12 hours ago was smiling at me like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. My jaw tightened, but I forced a calm smile. Thank you, Kasia. I really couldn't have done this without you. She laughed, delighted. I know. For a moment, I almost pitied her. She thought she'd won. She thought I was blind or weak or both. But tonight, when the chandeliers of the glass house lit up, she would know exactly what kind of woman I really was. As she fussed with the ribbons on a chair, I leaned in close enough for only her to hear. "You should enjoy today," I whispered. "It's going to be unforgettable." She looked up, startled by my tone. But then she grinned again, mistaking it for nerves. "Oh, it will be," she said. I walked away before she could see the steel in my eyes. By evening, this ballroom would be empty. And Kasia, my bridesmaid, my betrayer, would be left standing in the ruins of a wedding she thought she stole. By early afternoon, the first cracks in Kasia's illusion had already started. She didn't see them, but I did. At 2 o'clock, Mira and I sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, laptops open, phones buzzing. She had pulled up the RSVP list, 216 guests. Half of them had no idea where they were supposed to park, what door to use, or when to arrive. Weddings run on logistics, and logistics were about to become my weapon. "Step 1, Mira said, adjusting her glasses. "We send a group update from your official email. Subject line, important venue update. Short, sharp, confident. People will assume it's a last-minute shift for weather or construction. No one questions it if it sounds inevitable." I nodded. "Keep it authoritative. The bride decides. Everyone else follows." She drafted while I dictated. "Dear friends and family, due to unforeseen circumstances, we are delighted to announce that the celebration will now take place at the Glass House Ballroom, beginning at the same time. All vendors have been notified. Shuttles will redirect accordingly. We cannot wait to welcome you in this stunning space." When I read it aloud, my chest tightened. We cannot wait. That "we" wasn't just me and Adrian anymore. It was me and the truth. Within 10 minutes, replies began flooding in. "Wow, the Glass House. So excited. This is even better than the hotel." People didn't question it. They celebrated it. Meanwhile, across the hall, Kasia was still fluttering around with centerpieces and ribbons, blissfully unaware that her entire kingdom was evaporating beneath her. At 3 o'clock, I walked down to the lobby. 2 groomsmen were there, confused by valet instructions. I smiled sweetly and handed them the printed directions Mira had prepared. Actually, the venue changed. Head to the Glass House instead. Spread the word to everyone you see. One raised an eyebrow. "Last-minute change?" "Yes," I said calmly. "Last-minute magic." By 4, the shift was unstoppable. Guests were rerouting, vendors were redirecting, shuttles were confirmed. The hotel ballroom, Kasia's chosen stage, was being abandoned in real time, and she didn't even know it yet. At 5, Mira intercepted the band as they unloaded instruments by the hotel door. She leaned in, voice firm, handing them the updated contract. "You're playing at the Glass House now. Bride's orders. Payment increased by 20%. Musicians don't argue with money." They packed back up and drove off. By 6, I stood on the mezzanine, watching the hotel staff quietly dismantle the first rows of chairs. They weren't angry, they were relieved. A double-paid booking on a busy weekend meant profit without hassle. The manager winked at me. "Never liked dealing with overbearing bridesmaids anyway." I smiled. "Neither do I." And then, as if summoned by spite itself, Kasia appeared at my shoulder. Her lipstick was perfect, her hair smooth, her smile rehearsed. "Everyone's buzzing," she said. "You must be nervous." I turned to her. "I'm not nervous," I said. "I'm ready." She tilted her head, trying to read me. But before she could press, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and muttered, "Weird. People keep asking me for Glass House parking info." I hid my smile. "Strange," I murmured. "Maybe they're just confused." She shrugged it off, too confident in her stolen victory to notice the storm brewing. She swanned away toward the florist, barking instructions like she owned the place. I checked my watch. In less than 2 hours, 200 guests would be walking into her dream ballroom. The chandeliers would light, the music would play, and Kasia, if she was lucky, would only see it from the outside. The spotlight was moving. And this time, it was mine to command. At 6:30, the first wave of guests was already trickling toward the Glass House. Cars lined the curb, Heels clicked on the marble steps, and the chandeliers inside flickered to life like a stage waiting for its cast. Meanwhile, across town, Kasia was still fluttering like a queen bee over an empty hive. I stayed close enough to observe the unraveling. The hotel lobby smelled of lilies and lemon polish, but the air carried tension, thin and sharp. A bridesmaid in blush satin hurried toward the check-in desk, phone in hand. "Excuse me," she said, breathless. "Half my cousins say they're at the Glass House? Is that correct?" The hotel clerk hesitated, glancing at the half-set ballroom behind her. Then she smiled, diplomatic. "Our staff was told the event has been redirected." The bridesmaid blinked. "Redirected? By who?" I stepped forward, smooth as silk. "By the bride," I said simply. "Everything's already arranged." Her brow furrowed. "Kasia didn't mention." "Brides have a lot on their plates," I said, laying a hand on her arm with faux reassurance. "What matters is everyone's taken care of. Trust me, you'll be happier at the Glass House." She hesitated, then sighed with relief. "Well, honestly, that venue is gorgeous." She hurried off, texting furiously. Another ripple in the pond. By 7, the ripples were waves. Guests were posting photos of the glittering glasshouse atrium, captioning them with hearts and hashtags. #BestWeddingEver. The story was writing itself. Kasia, of course, was still in the dark. She swept into the ballroom in a haze of perfume and authority, barking at florists to fluff centerpieces, snapping at a waiter about wine temperature. She thrived on performance, and tonight her audience was evaporating. When the first groomsman wandered back in confused, Tyascu, saying, "Hey, everyone's actually heading downtown," Kasia laughed too loudly. "Oh, rumors. People always mix things up." She waved her manicured hand. "They'll come here." But then came the second cousin, then the florist's assistant, then a photographer's text, setting up at the Glass House. "See you soon." Kasia's smile thinned. "What?" I watched her read the messages, her phone lighting up with questions she couldn't answer. "Where's parking? When does the ceremony start? Should we head to the Glass House entrance?" She stormed across the ballroom toward me, heels stabbing the carpet. "Nova," she hissed, lips tight. "Did you hear about this? People think the wedding's at the Glass House." I widened my eyes, innocence wrapped in silk. "Really? That's odd." "Odd," she snapped. "This is a disaster." Behind her, 2 waiters quietly folded linens and wheeled carts toward the service exit. The hotel manager shook hands with Mira, who handed him an envelope. The deal was done. Kasia whirled, suddenly aware of the shrinking staff. "Where is everyone going?" The manager offered her a polite smile. "Miss, this space was released hours ago. We've already transferred services." Her jaw dropped. "Released? By who?" "By the bride's representative," he said firmly, gesturing without hesitation toward me. Kasia's eyes locked on mine. For the first time all evening, her composure cracked. The lipstick smile trembled. "You," she breathed. "Yes," I said softly, leaning close enough that only she could hear. "You stole my groom. I stole your dream venue." Her face drained of color. She staggered back, clutching her phone like it might rescue her. But it only buzzed with more proof. Photos of guests laughing under the Glass House chandeliers, videos of champagne flutes clinking, captions celebrating my wedding. She swallowed hard, trying to summon her trademark arrogance. "You think this makes you clever? They'll figure it out." I tilted my head. "They already have. And they chose to stay." Her hands shook. She turned in a slow circle, staring at the deserted ballroom, rows of half-arranged chairs, wilting flowers, tables missing half their settings. The sound of rolling carts echoed like a verdict. Then she looked back at me, eyes glassy, and whispered, "This was supposed to be mine." I let the silence stretch. Then, calmly, "Not anymore." At that exact moment, Mira appeared in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear, face alight. "They're ready for you," she said. "The crowd's already cheering." I stepped past Kasia, heels steady on the polished floor, my pulse a drum that finally matched the music of my own story. The spotlight wasn't waiting at the hotel. It was glowing downtown, where the night was alive, and every guest was already on my side. The glass house shimmered like it had been waiting its whole life for this night. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected a city glowing gold and silver, skyscrapers rising like silent witnesses. Inside, the chandeliers spilled light across marble floors polished so smooth it looked like poured glass. Every detail whispered luxury: velvet drapes, orchids arched in crystal vases, a quartet tuning their instruments near the stage. And every eye was turned toward me. When I stepped into the atrium, a hush fell, then applause rose in a wave. Not polite claps. Not confused murmurs. Real, full applause, like the room had been holding its breath until I arrived. Phones lifted, cameras flashed. Guests called my name, raising glasses in the air. For the first time since Kasia stole the man I once thought I loved, I felt the scales tip. She had wanted this moment, this entrance, this spotlight, this room vibrating with adoration. Instead, it was mine. Mira leaned close as we walked deeper into the hall. "They're already on your side," she whispered. "Just be steady. Don't force it. Let them see you." I did. I let the confidence I had carried in secret unfurl like a banner. The groomsmen who had been her conspirators raised their glasses toward me, unsure smiles softening into something genuine. One of the junior bridesmaids squealed, "You look incredible," and rushed forward to hug me. Even the quartet, unprompted, slid into a sweeping piece that sounded like an anthem. Meanwhile, across town, Kasia was likely still spinning in that hollow ballroom, choking on her own disbelief. Here, her dream was breathing without her. I mounted the small platform at the center of the room. A spotlight snapped on, framing me in a warm halo. My dress caught the light and shimmered silver, throwing tiny reflections across the walls. Guests gasped as if it were choreographed. I took the mic. My hands didn't shake. "Thank you," I said simply. My voice carried, calm but commanding. Tonight was supposed to be about love, about celebration. Some stories twist. Some spotlights shift. But look around, look at this room. Look at how beautiful it is when people come together for something real. Applause burst again, louder this time. I lifted my glass. So here's my toast. To truth. To reclaiming what is ours when it's stolen. To never letting anyone convince you that you're small. And to nights like this, when light finds its rightful place. The quartet struck the first notes of a song Kasia had bragged about for months. She'd said it was hers, that she had chosen it for her grand entrance. Now it belonged to me. The rhythm swelled, the crowd cheered, and couples spilled onto the dance floor as though the evening had been designed just for this moment. I let the music carry me, stepping down into the sea of guests. They surrounded me with warmth, handshakes, hugs, laughter. Phones buzzed with posts already trending, the wedding of the year at the glass house. The captions didn't mention Kasia. They mentioned me. For a fleeting moment, I thought about her. Alone, staring at empty chairs, her lipstick smudged by fury, scrolling through feeds that once would have been hers. She had stolen my groom, but tonight I had stolen everything she had built her identity on. And the difference was this: I hadn't taken it with lies. I had taken it with clarity, patience, and a plan. Mira appeared at my side again, slipping me a phone. "Thought you'd want to see this." On the screen, Kasia's furious messages to the bridesmaids. "Where is everyone? Who told you to leave? This is sabotage. Come back now." None of them replied. One simply posted a photo from the glass house, me, radiant in the spotlight, captioned with a single word: Queen. The night swelled around me. I could taste triumph in the champagne, hear it in the laughter, feel it in the way even strangers leaned toward me like they were grateful to witness this reversal. Kasia wanted a kingdom built on control. I had given people a reason to celebrate. That's the difference between fear and respect. One breaks. The other endures. And for the first time, standing in the light she thought was hers, I knew I wasn't just stealing her spotlight. I was claiming my own. The night was already soaring. Music, champagne, flashes of cameras, it felt like the city itself leaned closer to listen. I was mid-conversation with the CEO of a design firm when a ripple swept through the glass house. Not applause this time. A murmur, sharp and electric. Heads turned toward the tall glass doors. Kasia. She stormed in like a storm wearing silk. Her gown was dazzling, all sequins and ambition, but in this room it looked out of place, like a costume in the wrong play. Her eyes darted wildly across the hall, hunting for loyalty, for someone, anyone, to still be hers. But loyalty had already left the building. The bridesmaids, who once orbited her like planets, clung together near the railing, their faces pale. When Kasia spotted them, she snapped her fingers. "Over here," she barked, as though the force of habit would drag them to her side. Not one moved. One of them even stepped closer to me, slipping her arm through mine. The silence after that gesture was louder than a speech. Kasia's smile trembled, then hardened. She lifted her chin, raising her voice so the entire hall could hear. "This," she waved at the chandeliers, at the orchids, at the marble stage. "This was mine. You all know it." Gasps. A few guests exchanged nervous glances. But then Mira, steady as a stone, stepped forward. Her voice was calm, clear, amplified by nothing but conviction. "No, Kasia. This venue didn't belong to you. It was an idea, and ideas don't live in whispers or claims. They live in contracts, effort, and respect." And all three chose Sarah. Applause surged, rolling like thunder. Kasia's face flushed crimson. She tried to laugh it off, a brittle sound that cracked. "Respect? You think she earned this?" "She stole it from me, just like she tried to steal." Her eyes darted toward the crowd, searching for the word, the leverage. Finally, she spat it out. "My groom." The word hit the air like a stone dropped in water. But instead of waves spreading outward, the room grew still. No one gasped. No one clutched pearls. Everyone already knew. Everyone had already chosen a side. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the marble, steady as a metronome. The spotlight turned slightly, framing me once again. I didn't need a mic, every ear was waiting. "You're right," I said softly. The silence snapped tighter. "You did steal my groom." Kasia smirked, thinking I had cracked, that I would spill rage into the room. But then I lifted my glass. "And thank you." Her smirk faltered. "What?" "Because when you took him," I continued, "you freed me from a life too small for me. You forced me to look at what I truly deserved. And it wasn't him. It was this." I gestured to the hall, the guests, the applause swelling again, a life built on truth, not manipulation. Applause exploded. Guests rose to their feet, clapping, cheering. Some even whistled. Kasia's face twisted, rage and disbelief tangling until her polished mask crumbled. She shouted over the noise, her voice breaking. "You're all blind. She manipulated you. This is sabotage." But the more she screamed, the more her words dissolved. Anger without proof is just noise. Mira leaned in close, her voice just for me. "You've won. Don't push. Just let her burn her own stage." I nodded, keeping my composure. I didn't gloat. I didn't laugh. I simply stood, radiant in the very spotlight she had dreamed of, while she unraveled in real time. Finally, security approached, not rough, just firm. They offered her dignity with an open door. Kasia hesitated, chest heaving, sequins catching the light like shards of glass. She looked around one last time, desperate for a single ally. No one moved. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then, with a sharp shake of her head, she turned and stormed out into the night, the glass doors closing behind her with a final, echoing click. The room exhaled all at once, relief flooding the air like fresh oxygen. Then the applause rose again, louder, purer, as if the hall itself had declared a victor. I raised my glass one more time. "Now," I said, smiling, "let's dance." The quartet struck a jubilant chord, guests surged onto the floor, and the night bloomed brighter than ever. Kasia had tried to reclaim the spotlight. But the truth is, she never owned it. And now everyone knew. The music swelled, violins rushing like a tide, and the hall erupted into motion. Guests filled the dance floor, skirts sweeping, champagne glasses glittering under chandeliers. The energy shifted, the tension Kasia brought in had evaporated, replaced by laughter, music, and something else, relief. For the first time in months, I breathed without weight on my chest. Mira pressed a glass of champagne into my hand. Drink, she said with a sly smile. You've earned it. I laughed, a sound light and unfamiliar. Earned it? I think we rewrote the whole story tonight. You didn't just rewrite it, Mira replied. You took the pen and burned the old script. As the night spun on, guests approached me one by one. A designer thanked me for standing tall, her voice breaking as she admitted she'd once been humiliated by Kasia too. A junior analyst from finance raised his glass, whispering, "You gave us courage." Even the event planner leaned close, saying quietly, "I've seen plenty of dramas in this venue, but none with this ending." The words slid into me like warm light, but I stayed composed. I didn't need gloating. Triumph speaks louder when it's steady. On the dance floor, Mira twirled with the vendor from Denver, who had tears in his eyes when he caught my gaze. He mouthed, "Thank you." And then came the whispers. In one corner, two guests whispered about Kasia's desperate performance. "Did you see her face?" one said. "Like a mask breaking." Another murmured, "I heard she's blacklisted from 3 venues already. This will finish her." Their words weren't cruel. They were factual, heavy with the inevitability of truth catching up. In another corner, a bridesmaid who once followed her every command now stood with me, glass raised high. "To choosing better friends," she said, her voice loud enough for a few guests nearby to nod. The tide had turned fully. When the cake was rolled out, a tower of frosted roses, shining under the spotlights, the room erupted into applause again. The MC gestured toward me. "Tonight, it feels only right that Sarah cuts the first slice." The knife was cool and heavy in my hand. As I sliced through sugar and sponge, I felt it. This wasn't just dessert. This was symbolic. Kasia had stolen my groom, but tonight I carved through her illusion. I placed the first slice on a plate and handed it to Mira. The applause was thunder. Later, when the music softened and the dance floor slowed, I slipped outside onto the balcony. The city spread before me, lights blinking like constellations. The glass door slid open, and Mira joined me, a quiet presence at my side. "She's finished," Mira said. "Kasia?" I asked, though I knew. "She burned every bridge tonight. No venue will touch her. And anyone who still believed her saw what happened. You don't come back from that." I exhaled, the cool night air filling my lungs. I didn't want her destroyed. I just wanted my own place in the story. Mira studied me. "You didn't destroy her, Sarah. She did that herself. You just turned on the lights." I let the words sink in. She was right. Kasia built her empire on envy, deception, and performance. When the mask cracked, there was nothing underneath to hold it. Inside, the music picked up again, voices singing along, feet stomping, joy spilling out into the night. I stayed on the balcony a little longer, looking at the city, at the stars beyond. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't thinking about what had been taken from me. I was thinking about what I had built for myself. And it was stronger, brighter, and infinitely more mine. When I finally stepped back inside, the room erupted into cheers again, not for Kasia's shadow, but for me. For the woman who had taken betrayal and turned it into a spotlight no one could dim. Weeks passed, and the echoes of that night refused to fade. The spotlight Kasia tried to claim for herself had turned, permanently, in my direction. The first ripple came 3 days after the event. A wedding blog, one of those glossy platforms Kasia once worshipped, ran a feature on my night. Not hers. The headline read, "When Grace Meets Power, a bride who took back the stage." They didn't mention Kasia by name, but the subtext was clear. The bridesmaid's desperate spectacle had been witnessed, and no one was fooled. By the end of the week, inquiries poured into the event planner's office. Couples wanted my venue, the hall Kasia once called her dream. But when the planner told me, she laughed softly. "They're not asking for the building, Sarah. They're asking for the story. They want to stand where you stood." And Kasia? She vanished at first. No posts. No cryptic captions. No carefully filtered smiles. Silence where she once thrived on noise. But silence tells its own story. Whispers began, her new groom avoiding calls, vendors refusing to honor contracts, friends peeling away like wallpaper in a damp room. 2 weeks later, I ran into an old colleague at a cafe. She leaned across the table, lowering her voice. "Did you hear? Kasia tried to book another venue for a styled shoot, but the coordinator said no. Words out. She's toxic now. She sipped her coffee and shook her head. You didn't just take her dream venue, Sarah. You took her credibility. I thought about that as I walked home. It wasn't vengeance that fueled me anymore. It was clarity. For years, Kasia had siphoned pieces of me, attention, recognition, even love, and told herself they were hers to claim. That night at the venue had been the turning point. The world saw the truth, and the truth does not go back into hiding once it is free. Mira visited often. One evening, she brought takeout and spread it across my kitchen table. Between bites of noodles, she grinned. You realize, right, that people are telling your story like a parable now? About betrayal, about patience, about reclaiming what's yours. Let them tell it, I said. I lived it. She leaned forward, serious now. And what about you? What do you want next? The question lingered long after she left. It was answered a month later. I was invited back to the venue, not as a guest, not as a woman fighting to be seen, but as a speaker. The hall had partnered with a women's leadership forum, and they wanted me to open the event. Standing on the same stage where Kasia had unraveled, I spoke to a room full of women about reclaiming credit, about standing in your own light even when someone tries to dim it. As I spoke, I caught sight of the reflection in the mirrored wall. Not a victim. Not a woman abandoned. A woman who had chosen her own spotlight and dared to stay in it. And Kasia? She appeared one last time, uninvited, on the periphery of that same hall. Rumor said she came to beg for a second chance, to convince the venue to take her back. They didn't. I wasn't there to witness it, but I heard her pleas were short, her exit quieter than her entrance had ever been. Because when you build your empire on stolen bricks, it crumbles the moment someone shines a light on the cracks. That night, I left the venue with my head high, heels clicking on marble, the chandeliers glittering overhead. The spotlight didn't blind me anymore. It illuminated. And I realized, finally, that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reclamation. Kasia had stolen my groom. But I had stolen back something far more enduring, my narrative, my power, my name spoken with respect instead of dismissal. And for the first time in years, I felt untouchable. It has been 6 months since the night Kasia lost everything she thought was hers, and I reclaimed everything I thought I had lost. Life looks different now. Not perfect, not without shadows, but different in a way that feels solid, like a floor finally repaired after years of creaking under someone else's weight. The first change was subtle. People started calling me by name in rooms where I had once been the detail girl, the backup, or simply her friend. Invitations came with my name on the front, not as a +1 or an afterthought. My email filled with collaborations, partnerships, even keynote requests. One message said, "We want your story, because women like us need to hear it." And I realized something important. For years, Kasia had been the narrator of my life. She told people who I was: jealous, timid, replaceable. I let her words become the background noise of my existence. But now, I write my own lines. Kasia tried, briefly, to rebuild. A few social media posts dripping with false positivity. Setbacks are just setups for comebacks. But the comments betrayed her. Former friends asked pointed questions she refused to answer. Vendors shared their own stories of being shorted or lied to. Even her so-called groom, my ex, went silent. Eventually, her accounts disappeared. Not deleted, just abandoned. Like a stage after the audience has left. Mira still checks in, though less often now. She says she knew from the start that I had the strength, but she also admits it took Kasia's betrayal for me to believe it myself. Sometimes, the people who wound us most deeply are the ones who push us hardest toward our own power. That doesn't excuse them. But it does explain the fire we learned to carry. The venue itself became a symbol for me. Every time I walk past its glass doors, I feel something unshakable. The chandeliers no longer remind me of humiliation or betrayal. They remind me of reclamation. I even booked it again, this time for a charity gala supporting young women chasing careers that others told them were too ambitious. Standing at the podium that night, I said the same words I now say to anyone who asks what I learned. Your spotlight is yours to claim. Don't wait for someone else to hand it to you. Don't let them trick you into thinking you're too much or not enough. Choose yourself, even if it means standing alone. Because one day, you'll look around and realize you were never alone. You were just waiting for the right people to notice. And they will. Sometimes, when I look back, I wonder if Kasia regrets it. If she lies awake at night remembering the night she lost the venue, the guests, the applause. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. But here's the truth, I don't care anymore. My life is no longer about measuring myself against her. Kasia stole my groom. For a moment, it broke me. But in the end, she gave me something she never meant to, the push to stop begging for scraps and start building my own table. She took what was fragile, and I turned it into steel. So here's my final toast, to anyone listening who knows what it feels like to be sidelined, mocked, or betrayed. To anyone who has ever been told to shrink so someone else could shine. Don't. Please don't. The world has enough borrowed spotlights. It needs your own. I'm not telling you revenge will fix everything. But I am telling you this. Truth has a way of burning brighter than lies, and once you stand in your own light, there's no going back. The bridesmaid stole my groom. But I stole back the only thing that mattered, my dignity, my story, my spotlight. And this time, I'm not giving it away.